Hey everybody, Gary Fong here, and I'm really excited to do this video because I'm going to prove to you something that I've been talking about in passing. But it was quite a big thing for me to say, which was that the chakras are actually high conductivity points or low resistance points for the body, and I called them the USB ports for the body because that's where, if we're going to retune our nervous systems or reharmonize it away from what is called synthetic spin, the best way to do it is direct touch with the points where electrons can flow. So electricity is basically the study of the flow of electrons. And so what we want to do whenever we're talking about electricity and its kind of sideways parallel counterpart magnetism, we want to follow the flow of electrons. And we want to see where they can go, because if we have electrons that are maybe there's not enough of them in the case of like oxidative stress, then we can completely cure that by giving a rich source of electrons by earthing, grounding, standing on green grass. So things like that. Albert Einstein was famously quoted as saying, "The future of medicine will be the medicine of frequencies." And I thought that was really brilliant because it sure isn't the medicine of chemistry. Because in chemistry, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I majored in physics at UCLA, fascinated with electricity and magnetism, but then I studied radiation and nuclear medicine at UCLA Medical School, which made me think about more of a medical kind of, let's see what I can do with electricity and medicine. I later transferred to UC Santa Barbara, and I was one of the only 13 students in the country to graduate with a degree in pharmacology. And that led me to bioelectricity. I'm extremely hypersensitive, so it's called EHS. And this is due to my body having a high amount of a molecule called porphyrin. Porphyrin is a molecule that's used in oxygen transport into the mitochondria for energy use. It's used in sugar production, glucose metabolism, and myoglobin utilization, as well as blood iron, oxygenating blood through heme. Porphyrin is the kind of the translucent microscope molecule that is between the iron and the heme to create hemoglobin. And when you've got problems with your porphyrin, which happens in radiation, then you've got a problem making blood oxygen. And this actually happens because porphyrin is what I'll call a translucent molecule. When it's hit by radiation, it continues to glow, and that's why porphyrins are actually used as a radioactive tracer in radiation medicine. Okay, so I'm living in Kelowna, British Columbia, and all of a sudden they declare it Canada's first 5G smart city, and they put up 5G towers everywhere. It really hit me hard. I desperately needed relief, and those of you who have or have not seen my origin story, it's somewhere here on YouTube. Just look for my Shungite origin story. But I was so desperate, needing relief, that I stuck my head in a microwave, an unplugged microwave, obviously thinking that the microwave insulates radiation from going out. Wouldn't it insulate radiation going in? So I thought, my God, this is doing it. I actually feel relief when my head is inside the microwave. And this wasn't psychosomatic. This was true relief. And so I started researching things because you've heard of tin hat wearing people. I didn't want to become that first microwave hat wearing person. So I started a really long search for a cure that could help me out, alleviate the symptoms of electrohypersensitivity in the presence of radiation, mobile radiation specifically. And the one thing that I came across was shungite. Now, once I started to study shungite and its active ingredient, the component, the allotrope of carbon called the fullerene, or oddly enough called the buckyball, it changed my life. So if Einstein was right, and he is, that the future of medical care strategies will shift toward bioelectricity and away from biochemistry, then it makes sense to use the areas of our bodies as the conduits, the areas that are specifically conductive to the movement of electrons, and low in resistance as vectors. You want these treatable vibrational cures to get into the body encumbered, and you can look this up. This is, if you do a deep dive into something that I highly advocate, which is called grounding or earthing, where they found that people who just spent some time during the day barefoot on grass lived tremendously better lives. And that was because of earthing and grounding. And so the physics of it is that our bodies above ground are extremely high in charge. We've got a lot of positive charge, and the earth is ground neutral. So what happens is when our bodies are extremely high in positive charge, this evokes a flood of what they call free radicals through oxidation. It's oxidative stress. And the body is positively charged, and if you look up any research on the PET scan actually looks for acidic areas that are positively charged. So this is something that's basic in radiation nuclear medicine. But what I found personally was that despite my diet, which was really, I don't like sweets, I was creeping into the very, very close to glucose sensitive, close to diabetes type 2. And therefore, when I started to research what is the cause of that occurring, it's got to be synthetic exposure, because there was no, you can look this up, there was trace evidence of diabetes before around 1962. And guess what happened in 1962? In 1962, they invented the rubber sole sneaker, which is what? Is it resistant or is it conductive? It's 100% resistant, because they say you can walk through electrically charged water. You can have a puddle with 2 electrical leads in it. As long as you're wearing rubber-soled shoes, you will not get electrocuted. That means that electrons cannot pass through the rubber soles, and that is your key to finding out what the hell is going on with my body when we're trying to cure it through bioelectrical methods. And so one thing in my search, because I highly respect acupuncturists, I've seen their work, I know exactly what it does, and it's beautifully the practice of bioelectricity. In fact, when Richard Nixon first broke through the Great Wall of China, and as a diplomatic, it was a massive diplomatic victory. He went in and saw everyone riding bicycles in Chairman Mao outfits. They were all extremely uniform because it was communist, but what they were shut off from the world for generations. And in that time they were shut off, they had no exposure to our Western developments, like X-rays, like anesthesia, like anything like that. And so he saw that surgeons were doing brain surgery in China without anesthesia, but simply by poking needles in different parts, sawing the skull off, and asking the lady, if I touch here, do you see purple? So that was actually quite amazing to know that without the influence of synthetic material, and when I say about synthetic, I want to call it man-made. Okay, so let's just say that anything synthesized is man-made. And man-made is, guess what? Not natural, right? So that's like polyester, that's like aspartame, that's like glyphosate. All of those things are synthetic exposure, and those are the things that make you sick. I told my children, anything that is synthetic, anything that is man-made, it will eventually kill the things in nature, because it has what I call a synthetic spin. So my search has been to find something that was corrective to synthetic spin and restored the bioelectricity to the harmonious, consistent nature of the universe. So what I have here is my trusty ohm meter, and my ohm meter measures resistance. Basically, I'm going to give you a little kind of science thing. An ohm meter measures resistance or conductivity. It means basically that electrons are going to flow from here to here, and we want to see if it flows very freely. If you look at the meter right now, it says 1. The resistance goes from 1, full resistance, to drops down to 0. 0 means that electrons are flowing freely between these two poles. And so what we want to know is if we stick anything in the middle of it, will the electrons flow from one pole to the other? And let's try a gold watch. Okay, so this is whatever karat gold, but watch it go down to 0. Okay, so we know gold is a great conductor because gold is used in circuit boards, right? And shungite, obviously, is a great conductor. Let me pull out my piece of shungite. You'll see right here when I touch it. Drops down to 0. And this is the case which I really love. This is my personal, massive piece of shungite. It's a couple pounds, maybe or more. But when I touch the leads to the shungite, watch what happens. It'll go through the rock and return unimpeded, straight to 0. Okay. I'm going to show you the same thing that happens with this is a fake rock that I bought at a local crystal store here in Kelowna. This is why you'll see on my website at verifiedshungite.com that I do these resistance tests, because if I touch it here, it will not go to 0. It bounces around, but it will not go to 0. Same thing with orgonite. So orgonite has been touted as an anti-EMF thing, but on the basis of bioelectricity, orgonite is insulated. There may be, the lady who sold it to me said that there was shungite inside and copper chips and things like that. That may be true, but it's covered by resin, and resin, as you'll see, is a complete insulator. So this is just like tennis shoes on grass. No electrical transfer is happening in that situation. Now, let's talk about the human body. If I touch this to the back of my hand, watch what happens. Nothing happens. That means the electrons are not going through the body, which is true because the body is an insulator. It is not a conductor. You know, when lightning strikes, it goes to the recipient material that will take those electrons and send them down, it's a positive charge, send that down into the earth, the most attractive one, the one that has the most conductivity, right? And the least resistance. So there's miles and miles of stuff, but there's one little tiny lightning rod. It finds that rod and it sends it down so that it can neutralize that charge. It finds the most conductive thing. Now watch what happens when I touch my fingertip. See? Electrons are moving through. Watch what happens when I touch my palm. Electrons are really moving through. This is really interesting. This is the pointer finger that touches the screen of my touchpad. Look at how fast the electrons go through that. So, the reason that some of us who are electrohypersensitive have a numb fingertip is because your nerves are shot, baby, because there's been so much voltage going through it from your device. And if you're electrohypersensitive, you'll probably notice a numbing that goes all the way up this way. And those of you who are really electrohypersensitive, some of them who, they're kind of like me, are kind of like birds in a, what do they call it? A canary in a coal mine. We can tell like what's, what's really bad. If you touch where the charging port is and the screen, you'll feel, holy moly, this is really, really screwing up my nervous system from my fingers. I mean, I'm at this point where I don't have feeling at the fingertips. Maybe you are too. Then ask anyone who's electrohypersensitive if they touch shungite with their fingertips and then see what happens. They won't feel any of that shock at all. I'll touch this to the shungite plate and you'll see the resistance goes to 0. So this is why people ask me, the shungite plate, should it be on the outside, should it be on the inside? And I always say, just make sure it's touching your fingertips. Either side, just make sure it's touching your fingertips, because that is where you will stop those electrons from the horrible device from numbing your fingertips and going into wreaking havoc on your nervous system. Now here we're going to come to testing the chakras, because this is the part that I just kind of like did today, and I thought, oh my god, this is amazing, I got to show everybody. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to touch the back of my hand. You'll notice nothing happened, right? Touch here. Okay, we got palms, so we've covered fingertips. Now watch what happens when I touch my cheek. Nothing happens at the cheek, right? Now I will try, this cord's a little tiny bit short. I'm going to put it on my throat chakra. Check this out. Look at it move. Down at 28. I'm going to put it on my chin. Nothing here. I'm going to put it on my throat chakra. Now that's electrons moving. Now I'm going to move it to my solar plexus. See it move? I'm going to move it to my heart. That's at my heart. So I have tested this with the different chakras, and I have found, just like I thought, I don't remember where I got the prompt that told me that the chakras are the low resistance points, and I have a lot of friends who are acupuncturists, and you'll probably have something to say about the meridians that go from these areas, the chakras that go around, that we can redirect with pins. That's basically what they're doing. If you've got a problem and like you're going to have your skull cap cut off and you don't want to feel that, but you want to be awake so you can tell the doctor that when you poke here, I see purple, then they will put little pins that will take the pain sensors and redirect it up into this little area where it cannot connect. It's kind of like a railroad where you're just kind of like moving it here to there. They can connect things that are not connected, or they can disconnect things that they don't want connected, and that is all done through bioelectricity. So this is really fascinating to me. This to me basically opens up a discussion of, can we all agree that there might be something more to bioelectricity than the synthesis of man-made materials, which are only created to alleviate measurable symptoms so that you can feel better instantly. If you look in the medical literature on verifiedshungite.com, you will see a study in which laboratory rats that were given fullerene in their diet increased their lifespan by double. And I started taking shungite and being exposed to it about 5 years ago. Here's a photo of me then, accompanied to a photo of me now. So anyway, do me a favor and check out verifiedshungite.com. That's my site. It's completely derailed my life because it was an accidental discovery that has helped so many people. Just read the testimonials on the website. Okay? Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.